So June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's also Pride Month, and both of those things kind of intertwine in some ways. And I want to just talk about mental health for this video, and we'll get into our usual, reviews and whatnot afterwards. I just want to make this video because I feel like we don't talk enough about not just men's mental health, but mental health and gaming. Because a lot of I had a video a few months ago. I'll have it to your left or to your right. I talked about the social contract of gaming, and a lot of that was about toxicity in gaming. A lot of toxicity in video games stem from people having just mental health issues, people who are miserable and they hate life, and instead of getting therapy or talking to someone or finding ways to make their life better, they just take it out on people on the internet. They say things on Twitter or Reddit or Facebook or in your game chat. So it's like you have to talk about mental health, and I feel like some of those people, if they see this video, might start to feel a little, targeted, or even some form of connection in this video, because a lot of times when it comes to mental health, especially when it comes to men's mental health, there's a sense of not feeling seen and not being seen or not being heard, and you feel like you're by yourself, and being by yourself just makes everything worse. When you feel, even if you're in a room full of people, you can feel alone, and just through that feeling of being alone, you become miserable and you start to hate everything. How come I don't have friends? How come I don't have a girlfriend? How come I don't have any significant other who's non-binary or a male? It doesn't matter. You just feel alone, and because of that loneliness, you start to just hate stuff. You start to hate anything and everything, and you look for reasons to hate things. You try to find things to hate because you feel like that hatred, it fixes something in you mentally or in your heart that allows you to keep existing, if you keep existing. It's important to understand that when it comes to men's mental health, that men have the highest suicide rate. Whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you are a straight man or a gay man or non-binary, men have the highest suicide rate, and a lot of that's because of mental health. A lot of that is just so much stress and so much pressure on masculinity and being a man, and everything else that you deal with in your life, financially, relationships, housing, like no matter what it is, just even video games. People underrate the importance it is to be able to enjoy a video game. And if you're not enjoying the video game that you love, because you might love a game but it's not going your way, you're losing a lot, you're having bad games, so you just get more angry, and it has an impact on you. It weighs on you. You become way too frustrated to think straight, and people will look at that and just be like, well, it's just a video game, stop playing. You have to be more considerate and compassionate towards this kind of situation, and when it comes to people who are impacted by video games, because it is a thing. People are impacted by games. A lot of the times you hear about the positive ways people are impacted by games. For example, when I've watched like BioWare do panels, there's portions of the panels where they give people in the crowd the microphone to say whatever they want to say to BioWare. And a lot of times at a lot of those panels, people go to the microphone and say, hey, this game saved me. I was depressed and suicidal, and I played this game and fell in love with all these characters and made me appreciate life again. It made me I became part of a community and made a lot of friends, and now I'm happy. I've met my significant other through Mass Effect Reddit or things of that nature. So you can't just throw away people having such a big impact with games. And again, this video is about that. It's about people in gaming who are suffering mentally. And the easy thing to say is just get therapy. Not everyone can afford therapy. Not everyone, and here's another thing about therapy, even like outside of financially. The thing about therapy is, for some people, again, when it comes to like masculinity and feel like a man, you feel weak, admitting that you need therapy. You feel weak getting therapy. You feel like you're less of a man because you need to go talk to someone. You don't want to do that. You feel less manly. You want to freaking, just bottle it. Like, that's the thing about men. You just bottle it up. You just bury it as deep down as you can until those moments happen where you get frustrated, and a lot of it just comes out, and you have these angry outbursts or these angry reactions. And again, when I go back to that social contract of gaming video, toxicity stems from that. When you have these dudes who are just throwing slurs and saying so many hateful things about women and people who are part of the LGBT community, you have some people who are just miserable. Like people who are miserable, they feel like their only way to handle misery is make everyone else miserable too. You know, like they don't see it as, oh, it's just me, I just need help. No, their way of, you know, sedating their misery is to make other people miserable, is to make other people angry, is to make other people, you know, hateful and resent them and have complaints against them. And again, this isn't to target those people. It's more like a, you know, this is a Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And you have to be aware of this potential. And instead of, you know, just shutting them away, you know, preach them getting help, preach them, you know, making friends. Because a lot of times, even outside of just therapy, it could just be you finding friends and they change you. It happens. You know, I'm not going to say names because I don't want to like personally expose someone, but I do had an associate who, you know, opened up to me and admitted about, you know, some things that he did in high school. He talked about how in high school he just hated life. He hated everything. He had a very toxic relationship with his father, and you know, he was someone who was that guy who would say slurs and just be miserable and want to bring everyone else down. And then he joined the military, and he said everything about his misery, everything about, you know, how much hate he had in his heart changed when he went to the military. This isn't to say the military is your, you know, your beacon of hope. His point was that he made a lot of friends. He felt he got a lot of companionship. He people who he used to talk shit about and insult and throw slurs at became, you know, his brothers essentially. So there's people who, you know, were black. He's a white guy who he would die for them. You know, but he went from being a high school kid who, you know, would say a lot of racist shit to being a guy who would die for, you know, his black brothers in the military, who would die for his gay and lesbian brothers and sisters in the military. And it's not the military itself, it's just the community. It's the companionship. When you build community and build companionship with people, you start to change. And this reminds me, and this is kind of cliche, but it reminds me of one of the calling cards in the TV show Girl Meets World, which for those who didn't watch that show or don't know what it is, it's a TV show. It's a spinoff of the hit 90s show Boy Meets World. And in Girl Meets World, Corey Matthews becomes a teacher, following in the lines of Mr. Feeney. And Corey in every season has this catchphrase, this call sign, and that is people change people. And you know, that's the importance that some people should take from this video. You need companionship. You can't just be by yourself. You can't just be in a room with all your lights off by yourself. You can't just be avoiding communication and people and just be by yourself. You need people around you. People change people. There's people who are 50 years old and they've had nothing but hate in their heart, but they started, you know, becoming friends with other individuals, and they changed. I'll give you an example. There's this guy. His name is Daryl Davis. Some of you, the second I said that name, you know exactly who I'm talking about. Daryl Davis is a musician. He's an American musician who became an activist, and his call to fame as an activist was that he's this black guy who literally goes to Klan rallies. But I don't necessarily go. I don't think he's been to like a lot of them, but like he started meeting Klan members. He started to like try to get in meetings with Klan members, and his goal was to try to convince them, you know, why what they do is wrong. And he has a collection, and there are documentaries about this, there's videos about this, where he talks about how he has not even just regular run-of-the-mill Klansmen. He has gotten high-rank members of the Klan to renounce the Klan, and you know, in their hatred towards, you know, minorities and people from the LGBT community, just because they met this woman and talked to him. The reason I'm bringing up Daryl Davis and his, you know, and what he's done with his activism is because, you know, you have to understand that these people, they grew up not being in companionship and not being in relation with people who weren't, you know, like them. People have to understand that a lot of people, they grew up never seeing a black person other than on TV. A lot of people grew up not seeing someone who's Hispanic other than TV, or someone who's Asian other than on TV. There's a lot of pockets of society like that, even in America, not just the rest of the world, but even in America. There's people who just don't meet other people other than what they see on TV. So their opinion of those group of people is just based on what they've been told by their parents or grandparents and what they see on TV, be it on Fox News or just movies. They see movies and it's like, okay, all these films show these group of people acting a certain way. That must be how they are. But I don't want to get too far into all that because it's not what this video is about. It's about men's mental health and the importance of companionship. And what Daryl did was he got a lot of people to be companions with him, and they renounced their bigotry. You need companionship. You need friendship. You need community because they can change you. People change people. Your misery comes from you being alone. You have no friends. You're solo queuing in most of the games that you play. And you hate it. You hate it too. Like you might bury it down and say like, oh, whatever. But like a lot of those people who solo queue, they hate the fact that they're stuck solo queuing. They just don't know what to do to like stop being a piece of shit. And when it comes to my Twitch streams and some of my YouTube videos, I always end it with, it's free to be kind. It is free to be kind. And even if you are still dealing with that misery and dealing with depression and things that make you just want to hate the world, you can still be nice to people, and eventually you will start to feel a little change in yourself, because the energy we put out is the energy we should receive back. But also, not just that, the energy you put out is energy that you will feel. If you're a considerate person, even if no one's considerate towards you, you start to feel a different energy with yourself, a different vibe with yourself. And for some people, it might say it's easy for you to say. When I was in high school, I wasn't like, a miserable jackass, but I will say some just straight up stupid shit on social media. Like Facebook and MySpace, I would just unload on anything that pissed me off. I would talk shit about my teachers. I would talk shit about the government. I'll talk shit about family members. I wasn't miserable, but I was depressed. I was suicidal. My family knew I was suicidal. There was like multiple times where I've had discussions with my mom when I was in high school, my grandmother when I was in high school. My granddad will call me. Just people trying to like just make sure that I don't go through with any kind of actions. And my aunt offered to give me therapy, and I always turned it down. But generally, I had a hatred. And I don't even know where the hatred even came from. In high school, when it came to like people who knew me, if you weren't on my friends on Facebook or MySpace, you wouldn't even have known it, because in high school I wasn't a miserable person. I was a little quiet in some classes, but out in other classes and in like lunch and before classes start, I was a very talkative, outgoing person. I had a lot of friends. I was friends with everyone, like the jocks, the cheerleaders, the preppy kids, like every class in high school, every like social class, when I say class, every social class in high school, I was friends with. So you wouldn't even notice that I was just as a miserable person who hated everything. And for me, that misery came from not school, but from family. I felt so under pressure for like a lot of things. I felt like I was a failure, that there's just so much about my life that just wasn't what I wanted it to be. This is in high school. I just hated everything because of it. I hated everyone because of how miserable my family life was. And it wasn't because of like my mom or anything like that. It was just my own pre-created. This is all in my head. I created all this in my head about what my family thought of me. I saw myself as a family outcast. I saw myself as a family failure. No one in my family ever said that you're an outcast. No one in my family ever said you're a failure. That's just how I saw myself. Because I would see how they react to like other members of the family and just feel like, they don't treat me that way, so I guess they hate me. I guess they don't like me. I guess they don't want me to exist. And then that bridged into some high school things, but mostly when it came to like teachers, because I felt like I'm a very smart person, but I didn't apply myself in high school. So there were classes where I just wasn't doing good grade wise. And I would take that anger out on the teachers on social media. Like I would talk shit about my math teacher and say like she's a cunt and a whore and all these bad things. And I hope she dies and things like that. Was me in high school. And it's like, it stands out as one of them things. It was just like, How do you go from that to where you become an adult and you don't have any of that in your heart anymore, in your brain anymore? You talk to people. You know, like I said, my grandfather will call me, my mom will talk to me, my grandmother will talk to me, my cousins will talk to me. I had friends who were talking to me, and it's like, so it having that companionship, and that community, and people to talk to. I didn't even go to therapy. I just talked to people. You know, even something that small as just talking to people helped. It did the best that it could. And I did like I apologized on social media, like this again, just a teenager. I apologize for like all the posts that I had made it about like stuff like the government and my teachers. Like it helps, and that's kind of what I want to like, because this is a long video, so it's kind of like what I want to like say to those who are struggling with anything mentally. It helps to talk to people. It helps to feel community. It helps to, and that's kind of like part of why there's so many people who do freaking have like all the nonsense on the internet, or they complain about stuff in on social media and Disney and video games. A lot of that is from a lot of people who are miserable finding community with other miserable people. So like they're on these subreddits with other people who hate life. They're on these other forums with people who hate life and hate minorities. Don't get into those communities. You need to find people who are positive, who see you for what you could be, and you go from there. You go from there. Because a lot of times that's all you need. Therapy, if you can afford it, should be an option. Even if you're someone who's kind of like socially like awkward, there are online therapy options out there, and people have their opinions on some of those options, like BetterHelp. That's their opinions on stuff like that. But generally, if you don't want to do in-person therapy, you have options. And when you find friends, you learn the will to live. So right now, I have 2 friends that I'm fully aware of who want to end their life. And I say fully aware of because there could be other friends who might also feel that way, but just aren't open about it. But I have 2 friends who are open about the fact that they want to end their life. And I try to talk to them every single time, to make sure they understand it and feel like they are wanted, appreciated, and liked. Because a lot of it's just they're just miserable, and they hate life. Now they don't go on tangents about racism and things like that, but they still feel some form of misery. And as a friend, I just try my best to make sure that they understand that they, because at the end of the day, you can only do so much as the friend. As the friend, you can only do so much. But I try my best. I try my best with both of them, and hopefully, they never go through with taking their own life. Hopefully, and hopefully, you watching this video, you never do it too. I hope that you find companionship. I hope that you find friends. I hope that you find a community. However way that ends up being, if it leads to just more positivity for you to get out of whatever mental funk you're in, then that's progression. Because even if it's just something small steps are still steps. Like you don't have to be cured of misery or cured of depression tomorrow. Small steps are still steps. And talking to someone could be the first step, and that's up to you to find who to talk to, when to talk to them, what to talk to them about. Because you don't want to. A lot of people have just some things that they just are so scarring. They don't ever want to know about it. They don't want anyone to know about it just out the gate. You just want to progress to that, and that's okay. You take your time. There is no rush. But it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and it needs to be talked about how important men's mental health is, because it is. It's massively important. And a lot of why things are the way they are when it comes to toxicity in video games stems from men's mental health. And that needs to be stated. With all that said, that is it for your boy, Anonymous Gamer Archer. I hope you all have a good rest of y'all day. Y'all stay safe, because one another is free to be kind. I'll catch you guys on the live stream or the next video. I'll see you when I see you. I'm out of here. Deuces.